Apollo Joseph. We have just accused Kristoph Gavin of being the murderer.
Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Kristoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne.
Yes, Your Honor. The witness, state his name and occupation.
Is this first necessary, Your Honor?
Believe me, far stranger things have gone in this courtroom. For instance, falling in love with Mr. Payne.
Oh, it's Margaret now, so
Margaret.
you can just call me Margaret. But
Fine. I'll play along.
First, there's one more thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat?
The fact that it was bald. By secret, I'm guessing he means that the fact that Mr. Smith was bald. He was bald. Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head? Your Honor seems to have an inordinate interest in it.
Objection!
I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin.
Mr. Wright! What do you think you're doing, Wright?
Wow. Things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time.
At one time, being the instant he was hit.
Oh!
When Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, the hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have seen Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to been there at the hideout at the time of the crime. In other words, I must be the real killer, is what you're trying to say.
Not bad, Apollo. Mr. Gavin?
I'm afraid I haven't been entirely honest with the court.
Oh, what?
Oh, I assure you I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation, I see little reason to hide anything. Very well, allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night.
Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of that fateful night?
I killed him. Shit! I
killed.
The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little window to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appears in the photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright, holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that that was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright.
So, you witnessed the murder?
For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed.
Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team. Your testimony is clearly disadvantageous to your client.
What else could I say? I'm standing on the witness stand, after all.
So you are, Mr. Gavin.
Hmm?
And you had to testify as you just did. You had to tell them you saw the scene of the crime. through that little window.
Mr. Wright?
You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo?
Oh. What? Oh.
Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant! Mr. Justice, are you prepared?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, be prepared!
Okay. Be prepared. I can't believe I'm going up against Mr. Gavin. This trial is getting weirder and weirder. The rage I sensed in the man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. That man, even Mr. Smith? He was different from the other customers. His aura, shall we say. I knew he was a serious poker player, but it was more than that.
So then you knew the true nature of the client's job.
Of course. But I also knew he wasn't engaged in gambling, which would be illegal. Well, it makes sense that you know. They were friends after all. Worried for my friend, I returned to the club. You see, I feared this Mr. Smith might be someone coming to settle an old score.
I see. What happened then?
I went down to the basement and peeked through that little window to the hideout. A little window? You mean the one used to keep the watch up the stairs? Yes, a relic of the ancient past. The black marketers used it, I believe. Why did you go through the trouble peeking in through the window? Wouldn't it have been easier to just open the door and go into the room? I didn't want to upset Wright, you see. Upset Mr. Wright? Yes. Well, what if my fears had been unfounded? I'd be walking in on their match. Bad form, to say the least. So far everything he's saying makes sense. Must have been right after the murder took place. How do you know it was right after the murder? Really, no need to shout, Justice. I was just getting to that part in my testimony.
Ah, there he is. The coolest defense in the West we know and love. Even when you're standing up there on the witness stand, some things never change.
I was afraid. You changed too, right? But you haven't. You and that overbearing personality of yours. With friends like these, who needs enemies? The victim was dead as he appeared in the photo. Appears in the photo. By photo, you mean the second photograph of the crime scene? Precisely. You see, he wasn't wearing his hat then. I saw his head when he was dead.
I saw a
Sick
hat
poetry
on a
by,
cat.
Yeah, sick poetry by Kristoph Gavin. And then Mr. Wright came along and replaced his hat.
Can you describe the scene of the crime for us?
The bald-headed and unconscious girl, and Wright holding the bottle in his hand. Those were the only three at the scene of the crime? Yes, as far as I saw, at least.
Then we're back to where we started. The killer was the defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could it have been? But why didn't you talk to the police?
2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend. There must have been someone else there at this moment of the crime! Justice, I just said I saw no one. Not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said! Ah yes, this mysterious fourth person. Who would have conveniently be the real killer, I suppose.
Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin.
Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you could show us a reason why such a thing would be necessary. How can I show something I can't find myself?
Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace.
The 5th ace. Right.
Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to a reason? Show evidence.
It's now or never. The defense would like to present evidence to the court. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out.
Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the 5th ace?
The attorney's pet.
Take that!
Nope. 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 Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one. Next one.
This is the one that, you know, had the card swap.
Right. Could this be the missing 5th ace? So we, that's an ace of spades.
Yes. That is what that is. That is an ace of spades, yeah.
Okay. So why did the killer take the 5th ace? Because you're only supposed to have 4 aces.
Also, there's
blood on it.
blood on it! But these says, this! Is that an ace?
Why? Why, it's got blood on it!
It's the ace of spades!
Right next to the spade!
Oh. What? This is insane! Why wasn't I told about this? Why?
Margaret, contain yourself. Could this be...
It's fucking over my case!
Could this be the missing 5th ace?
Inconceivable. How could you? What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Kevin so upset? It's just a fishy card from some fishy girl.
Oh, that card? It's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Borscht Bowl Club that night, after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock in trade, after all.
No, impossible, unacceptable. The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud.
A fraud? How can you be so sure?
What?
I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene. The real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason?
The reason for
the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime.
Where are you going with this?
Take another look at the photo and at the victim's head. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Couldn't a drop of that blood have fallen on one of the cards?
I suppose.
The killer then took the card to hide the blood.
Regardless, that evidence is non-permissible.
Oh?
Right. Regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years, you used to be a lawyer. You know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence.
Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question.
What are you talking about?
You wanted to know why the killer would have taken a card from the crime scene. And now I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see.
This is baseless conjecture. Baseless!
Oh, I assure you it's quite based.
What?
It's amazing, really. How a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo?
Yes?
Try picturing the scene of the crime in your head.
Oh god! There's so much detail! Oh god!
What's going on?
I'm going in there!
Whoa! 7 years made quite the difference.
Yeah.
The murder took place in the hideout. The body of the luckless victim was found at the poker table. And before the killer swapped a card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene.
Well, what is it?
Let's keep it simple, sweetheart. Shall we? Given that there was a drop of blood on a card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? The victims? The killers? The witnesses? The second witnesses? Whose position doesn't fit with the bloody card?
The bloody card.
The bloody card. Okay, so, whose position doesn't fit with the bloody card?
Yeah.
What the hell does that even mean? Wake me up here.
Okay.
What does that even mean? Because we're saying that the card was in his hand, or, and
The card was in whose hand?
in the victim's hand.
Okay, so, meaning specifically, where was that card?
Where was it?
Yeah, specifically, if it was in his hand, where is it?
It's with him.
It's with him.
With V.
Specifically, like, where was the placement of the card at that time? So
it'd be in his left hand.
Okay, where is his left hand?
Oh, his left hand would be on this side
Of
the table.
the table, so he's over the table. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Why doesn't that make sense? Why doesn't it make sense that there's blood on it?
Because the only place where blood was coming out would be going out the back of his head.
Which will go
Behind him.
onto.
The floor.
There you go. Which would mean that whose position is doesn't make sense is meaning that in order for the blood to be on the table, what would be the victim's position?
Forward.
But he's backwards. So
Yeah.
that means in order to have the blood be on the table,
He would have to have been turned around.
I might have missed. Okay, good. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem?
I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice.
Well, look, the victim was struck on the head, sending him back into his chair. You'd think any blood would fall behind the body, not onto the table in front of him.
Ah,
Take a look at this photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood would have fallen on the floor, not on the cards.
why, that's right. So what does this mean?
Incidentally, we were sitting in swivel chairs.
Swivel chairs? Oh, man.
Apollo, try turning the crime scene around.
No.
I don't know what the hell the rest of... Try turning the chair around.
That makes sense.
Holy shit, this is crazy.
Whoa! Holy shit!
Yo.
The chair was facing the other way.
That would have been, nice in the other game.
It's the DS, man. This is the new.
Yeah, you
got
gotta be able to move it with the stylus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would have to be. So, we have to assume at the time of the murder, the victim's chair was facing away from the table.
Yo, it's blowing my mind.
When Mr. Wright returned from informing the police, which way was the chair facing?
When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo.
That would mean the killer turned the chair back around.
Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know now the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder. But this creates another significant contradiction.
Again?
Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on this diagram contradicts our new understanding of the crime? The victims? The killers? The witnesses? The second witnesses? Whose location creates a contradiction? The second witness. Whose location creates a contradiction? The victim, if the victim was facing away.
Yeah.
The window guy.
Window guy? What doesn't make sense is the second witness. You mean to say that I don't make sense? No, of course you do. Sir? As I thought. Help! No, you're wrong.
I meant window as in W.
Okay, of course. Of course. Yeah, of course.
But then I also meant W as in killer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You're saying the killer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't get your language, alright? I didn't speaking fucking nonsense, alright? The victim was struck from the front. Correct?
Payne was struck from the front last night, but he didn't know. It was actually, he didn't know he was Margaret. Margaret, he didn't know that Margaret was Winston.
Yeah,
and
the judge has a fucking huge cock.
Oh,
flopping.
He's got there's a reason he's called Frank. Okay, man. Indeed.
Well, wouldn't it be hard for the killer to hit him from the front? Sitting where his indicator currently is?
I would think it'd be quite hard, yes?
Yes, but what you're saying makes no sense! Why would the victim suddenly turn to face the wall in the middle of the game?
I believe a sufficient reason will soon come to light.
What?
There's something in this diagram that makes far less sense, actually. Look again at the diagram. Apollo, if the victim was struck while he was sitting as shown here, where would his assailant be standing? Try marking it on the diagram.
But there's no room to put a mark where the killer should be.
Don't worry. Let's think it through and see what we find. We know the victim was facing toward the wall at the time of the crime. That's the only thing we know for sure. Try to forget about everything else. Where would the killer have to be standing to strike our victim from the front? Well, in front of him.
So like right here?
Well, he just said that he was facing the wall at the time of the crime.
Yeah.
Meaning, what wall are we referring to here?
I mean, this is like a bookshelf type thing.
This isn't a wall.
No.
But this is a wall.
Well, yeah, this is the wall. I mean,
okay, that's the wall they're referring to?
Yeah, that way's the wall, but there's a fucking...
Okay. So he would have to be... To hit him from the front...
Phoenix said that it doesn't have to make sense. Just tell him.
Okay, alright, so his crotch. He's right there in his crotch. He's straddling him and he hits him.
He's straddling him.
To hit him from the front, he'd have to be in front of him.
Okay, he's in the front. Alright. Alright.
He's mounted him?
No, he's not on top of him.
This was a different poker game?
No.
And
that's for my fanfiction.
He walloped him, dude.
No, he's inside of the cabinet right now. The killer had to be standing here!
You get points for flair, but that's all about you get. About all you get.
I thought I was onto something there too.
I hardly need to point out that standing there would be impossible. The victim is facing a solid cupboard. Oh, are you claiming the killer climbed the cupboard and hit him from above? Ha!
It's simple logic, really. If this was the only place the killer could have been standing, then that means that at the very moment of the crime...
Wait, my voice! I know! At the moment of the crime, the cupboard wasn't there.
What's this now?
I mean, that's the only explanation. Right, Mr. Gavin? Your Honor, I have a suggestion for the defense. We should arrange to examine the cupboard in the hideout immediately.
Bailiff! Send a team to the crime scene immediately! Have them try to move the cupboard!
Your Honor,
What?
there's one more thing your men should look for. Please give this to the bailiff.
Yes,
Right,
I see.
Number 3, extra fries. A large shake, okay.
You do belong in the courtroom after all, Mr. Wright.
I do my best. But let's forge ahead here while we wait. Look at the diagram once again. It's been changed. If the killer was standing here at the time of the crime, then this cupboard wasn't here, which means... Apollo, try moving the cupboard. It was in front of the fucking window.
Oh,
So he couldn't have seen.
oh!
Thank you.
This cupboard was fucking heavy, dude.
As you can see, the cupboard was the problem. At the time of the murder, it has to have been shown. It has to have been as shown here. Now everything is in place to reconstruct the moment of the crime. Oh my. What's this?
What is it now?
Look at the diagram of the crime scene once more. It appears we found yet another contradiction. What I believe to be the final contradiction, in fact.
Oh, dang!
Notice something, Apollo? Our line of deduction is rapidly approaching its logical conclusion.
Now then, Mr. Justice, please point to the new contradicting indicator. Is it the victim? The killer? The witness? The second witness? Which indicator in this diagram contradicts what we know about the crime?
Yeah, which is...
The window to the wall!
Window man! About this cupboard, are we all okay with assuming it was moved?
Sure. Why not?
Well, if it was, something really doesn't fit. The cupboard would completely cover up the window to the stairs! Ah! That's right! Someone standing outside wouldn't be able to see in! Someone like Mr. Gavin! What did you say?
Oh. Is the coolest defense in the West losing his cool?
Don't expect me to play along with your little game, right?
It's only a game until someone gets killed, Mr. Gavin. And someone was. While the window to that room was blocked by a cupboard. So, Mr. Gavin, perhaps you'd like to explain to the court. Exactly where did you witness the crime scene from?
Excuse me, Your Honor!
Order! This is a court of law, and I will have order!
Oh, hey, we just now received the word from our investigative team at the Bush Boar Club. They've examined the cupboard and the hideout, Your Honor.
Oh, and what did they find?
Well, Your Honor, it turns out there was a secret passage behind it.
What?
Ah, yes. I believe I mentioned something out of the sort before. This is one of the tricks to the room many of our regulars know about.
I do remember him saying something about that. Now that he mentions it.
A secret passage is a handy thing to have when you're engaged in illegal goings-on. You never know when you might need to duck away from the eyes of the law.
So the room has a secret passage. Where does it go?
The other side connects to the restaurants above. The underworld bosses could get away from the cops and enjoy a cold bowl of borscht, no doubt. Just like our killer. You see where our line of simple deductive reasoning has led us, Apollo?
I see it, but I don't believe it. My girl wasn't kidding when she said I needed this trump card for the last hand. At the time of the murder, the window was blocked and the victim's hat was only off his head for a few minutes between Mr. Smith's murder and Mr. Wright's return from calling the cops. In other words, the only place anyone could have seen the victim's bald head was from inside the hideout. Well, Mr. Gavin, come on, say something.
Dare I ask what really happened that night?
Actually, I think we could probably figure it out ourselves at this point. That night, for whatever reason, our killer had a date with Mr. Smith. A date with destiny. There he crouched, hidden in the secret passageway behind the cupboard, holding his breath, waiting for just the right moment. Then the chance came, and he took it. Ah! Why did you do that? Wait here, I'll get help. Actually, that was probably Phoenix that said that line.
What? Why did you do that? Wait here, I'll get help.
Miss Olga Orley was out cold, struck by Mr. Smith. But his time was soon to come. Mr. Wright went upstairs to call the cops, leaving Mr. Shady Smith alone in the hideout with the unconscious dealer. The now killer stepped out from the secret passage and into the hideout.
The victim must have heard the cupboard sliding aside.
He wheeled his chair around to look and...
After the deed was done, the criminal must have seen the blood on the card. He would have, of course, realized the need to destroy the evidence. That single spot of blood told the whole story of the crime.
Too bad for him he didn't linger any longer in the hideout that night. If he had, he might have noticed the cards on the floor. And the fact that they were all red!
Well, it seems this trial has taken yet another turn. I'm truly sorry I had to see this day come, Mr. Gavin.
Mr. Gavin?
Mr. Payne!
Yes, Your Honor?
The prosecution will continue its investigation. As for Mr. Phoenix Wright, the defendant, he is hereby cleared of all suspicion. Believe me when I say that I don't believe this is happening, Mr. Gavin. But I'm afraid circumstances call for me to issue a warrant for your arrest immediately.
Oh, no need to apologize. I rather enjoyed myself. It's not every day you get to witness our legendary attorney's dirty tactics firsthand.
Your point, Mr. Gavin?
Frankly, Your Honor,
I am Frank.
I'm shocked
And I'm Frank.
that a person of your caliber would be taken in by such a low-grade parlor trick.
Excuse me?
The defendant is cleared of all suspicion. This is hardly the time for jokes, Your Honor. Mr. Wright hasn't proven anyone's guilt or innocence here. What he has done is use illegal evidence to put the blame on someone else. And not just anyone else, but me, his own defense attorney.
Illegal evidence?
Let me ask you, Mr. Gavin. Is there still any reason, at present, to suspect me of wrongdoing?
Of course. This bottle, for instance. The bottle of grape juice Mr. Wright was drinking. How do you intend to explain away the fingerprints on the murder weapon? And not just any fingerprints. Am I right, Mr. Payne?
Actually, yes. The fingerprints on the bottle were, upside down.
I seem to recall this being an issue earlier. The court, in this case, demand an explanation. I can think of only one reason why one would hold the bottle upside down, and that is to hit someone with the bottom of the bottle. Well, Your Honor.
See how the codfish squirms to the last? Well, Apollo?
Yes?
Your boss seems awfully concerned about this bottle still. But I'm sure you can come up with a suitable explanation. Just like that.
Yeah.
Just like what?
Why would anyone grab a bottle upside down other than to...
Don't let him trick you into thinking his explanation is the only legitimate one.
Is there really another?
Take another look at the court record. I believe you'll find a simple answer there in plain sight.
How about you just say the answer in plain words?
It would be hasty to deliver a verdict with unanswered questions indeed. Well, Mr. Justice?
Mr. Gavin said that the court, in this case, demand an explanation. Oh boy, justice won't leave until justice is done.
Perhaps the defense would care to enlighten the court. What evidence do you have to explain why the fingerprints on the bottle are upside down?
Well, the card was inside the bottle. He would have to turn it upside down to fish it out. But it was. It was in there. They hid the card in there. So Phoenix would have to turn it upside down to get it out.
No.
Okay. Why the fingerprints of the bottle are upside down? Well, he was drinking it. He had to grab it. Man, oh man. He had to grab it out of the crate. He had to, I don't know.
Gotta grab it out of the crate.
Yeah, maybe grab it. Here you go, man.
It's actually easier to show you than explain, Your Honor. Place that bottle on the floor next to your chair. Grab that Dr. Pepper bottle. Or the water bottle. See how you grabbed it? Ah!
Excuse me, on the floor?
Yes, now reach down and pick it up without getting out of your chair. Ah! See? You naturally go to pick up the bottle by its neck. With your fingers upside down!
Oh, damn!
Look at this photograph taken at the night of the murder. The defendant, Mr. Wright, sat here, playing piano. Bottles of grape juice on the floor to his side of his piano bench. He would have naturally picked up the bottles upside down several times.
Wow! I can't believe it was that simple!
Recall our dinner that evening, Kristoph. I was drinking my usual juice then, too.
Basically, you used the bottle on the table to do the deed, but then you must have remembered. So you went and picked up one of the bottles from under the piano, and you switched the bottles. You took one of Mr. Wright's bottles and made it look like the murder weapon.
Order! 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 What do you have to say to these charges, Mr. Gavin?
Fascinating. So this is the legendary attorney's famed tactic of misdirection. What? You claim that I switched the bottle? Where is your proof?
Proof? Well, that's,
As I thought. more baseless conjecture. I'm afraid your bottle of proof is quite empty.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. Your Honor, when you initiated the investigation of the hideout earlier, do you recall I requested an additional investigation?
Ah, yes. I have your memo about that here. Retrieve the bottles from under the piano at the Borscht Bowl Club. And here's one of the bottles in question.
What? Are you going to dust that for fingerprints too? I would be surprised if any were on that but his. Mr. Gavin probably wouldn't make such a novice mistake. True. That bottle won't bear a trace of anything.
Say, Apollo,
Yes?
why don't you go ahead and examine that bottle?
Why?
Just humor me.
That's right.
That bottle will solve this case once and for all.
What? That's some bottle.
Oh my god. There's something inside the bottle. Is that a
Damn,
cork?
it's a fucking screw on.
Yeah. What's this? That card. It can't be.
Recall that unpleasant woman's testimony for a moment?
Is Olga oily?
Yes. Our little swindling Devotka. Devoshka.
That night I planted the cord like I was supposed to. Right, lost the last hand just like he was supposed to. Then Smith searched him. But the planted cord was gone. The trap failed.
Wait, isn't this... You're telling me that this is the planted card you disposed of? The one you mentioned in this piece of testimony?
I happened to put my hand in my pocket and found a card. Yes, I snuck a peek at it and found it was the 5 of Hearts. I had a feeling something might happen, so I disposed of the card before the game.
Disposed? Where?
There was an empty bottle of grape juice I had been drinking right beside me. I threw the card inside the bottle. The 5 of Hearts. This is the card. The bottles were swapped, and the only one who could have done that was the 4th person in the club that night. You, Mr. Kristoph Gavin. You son of a Borscht. That is all.
Is this your idea of revenge, Mr. Phoenix, right?
Revenge?
Revenge for the events that took away your attorney's badge 7 years ago.
My past is like my logic. Straight and true. Nothing's changed. All I did was point the finger of justice in the proper direction.
Fine. I'm glad we could have this little tete-a-tete, right?
This is insane! What about me? Don't I get to prosecute anyone? Fuck! I'll just retire now! God damn it!
Don't worry, Advocate Pension. I believe this time we finally come to the end of our trial. Mr. Payne, do you have a report for us on Kristoph Gavin?
He's admitted everything. We're processing his arrest now.
I see. Still, one has to wonder why he would do such a thing. He didn't even have a connection to the victim, did he?
None that we know of.
Mr. Wright, have you anything to add?
I'm afraid I can't shed any more light on the matter.
About this victim, Mr. Shoddy Smith. His occupation was listed as traveler. An odd profession to be sure, and that's all we know about him.
I'll await your follow-up investigation, Your Honor.
Good, Mr. Wright.
Yes?
7 years and you still haven't lost your touch.
Kristoph Gavin was a man with much significance for me, both as a friend and a lawyer.
He was extremely talented, to be sure.
I needed 2 things before I could confront him. The first was a place where no injustice would be tolerated. This courtroom. The second was a man who would tolerate no injustice. In other words, a defense attorney. You, Apollo.
Me?
This is a dark time for our legal system. A twisting of justice brought on by our very own initial trial system. We have to set it right.
Mr. Wright.
Our work lies ahead of us, and I, for one, am looking forward to it.
Well, this seems like a good time to announce a verdict. This court finds the defendant, Mr. Phoenix Wright, not guilty.
Woo! I'm gonna get some fucking drinks. Alright? I'm done with this bullshit.
Court is adjourned.
Come with me, Frank. We'll have some fucks. We're gonna fuck together.
Shit. Yeah, dude, that almost made me fucking... Thanks, Apollo. You came through just like I thought you would.
I'm pretty sure I didn't do a thing in there. It was you who caught him, the killer.
I couldn't have done it by myself. You sensed it too today, didn't you? Your ability.
Ability?
Yes. A sensitivity I lack. You'll come to understand it soon enough.
Wait. I wonder if he means... I have one question for the witness then. You say you saw the moment the defendant hit the victim. Is this true?
Of course it's true.
What's this weird vibe I'm getting? What was that, Mr. Wright?
You'll have to find the answer to that question yourself.
Answer. Right. Today was full of questions without answers. Most of them about Mr. Gavin.
What possible reason could he have had to commit murder? Perhaps you'll learn that in the days to come.
Huh? Wait, you don't know, do you?
This locket is the key.
Oh, that reminds me. I met the girl whose picture is in your locket. Your daughter, right?
That's right. She's my daughter. You know, you were right about this locket.
Huh?
I took this off his neck the night he died. But it looks like our dear Russian scam artist saw me. So the truth is, this locket really did belong to him.
Wait, but that's perjury. You testified. You said that locket was yours.
I said no such thing, actually.
Huh?
I merely said that it was a locket with my daughter's picture inside. A subtle distinction, but a distinction nonetheless. And it's the truth.
Wait. Why? Why was the victim wearing a locket with a picture of your daughter inside it?
Sometimes the straightest path to the truth isn't the best one. Give it time. You're still just getting started with your career.
Speaking of which, I may be out of a job. I work for Gavin Law Offices after all. I still can't believe I just saw Mr. Gavin get led away in handcuffs.
Apollo,
Yes?
how about coming to work for me?
Huh? You mean at the Vatican offices? I mean, it's not a single attorney in my generation that doesn't know it.
I can imagine that to be true, but...
Wait, but didn't you... You're not a...
Oh, I turned in my badge, yes. I'm not an attorney anymore.
That incident 7 years ago. That legendary trial. And in the middle of it all was one man, Phoenix Wright. The case reached its sad conclusion, and he left the law for good. Have you ever thought about coming back to the courts?
I'm not qualified to stand in a court of law, I'm afraid. Didn't you notice in today's trial? There was a single piece of forged evidence.
Forged evidence? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about evidence that shouldn't have existed. A naughty magician's trick.
One piece of evidence struck me as odd, it's true. It just seemed... well, too perfect. I'll bet this was the forged evidence.
The bottle? Forged evidence.
The bailiff went to get the bottle, so
Oh, right.
that can't be forged.
The card?
This card?
Sure, I mean, what else could have been forged?
You mean this, don't you? I got this from your daughter, Mr. Wright.
Yes. That card couldn't have been found at the crime scene. Why? Because the killer took it with him when he left, leaving the wrong card in its place. Luckily for us.
The court can't accept this evidence. It's a fraud!
A fraud? How can you be so sure? I would think the only person who could claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene. The real killer. My verdict was already handed down 7 years ago.
Then, you really...
Yes. I forged this card. One look at the crime scene should have told you it wasn't real.
But you can't do something like that and call yourself an attorney!
Who's calling themselves an attorney, Apollo?
So it's true. The rumor is true. 7 years ago.
None of that matters much now, does it?
I punched him.
It's your story from here on out, Apollo. Perhaps I can help you turn the next page. My office's address. Drop in if you like.
Mr. Wright.
Oh, about your uppercut. Try yelling, "Take that!" next time. I find it packs a little more punch. And Apollo, thanks for today. I had a good time.
And with that, Mr. Wright walked out the door. And that's how my first trial ended. A lot of mysteries went unsolved. And at the time, I had no idea they were all related. Every mystery that day, connected by a single thread of logic. I'd find that out soon enough. My name is Apollo Justice, attorney at law. This is how my story begins. That's the end of the first case. Nicely done, Mac.
Thanks.
Yeah, good job. What do you think? What's your thoughts?
Man, a lot to take away there. You know. I mean, you know, what the hell happened? My guess is that Phoenix didn't know he had a daughter 7 years ago. and there was a a case regarding his legitimacy
Like custody?
as a father. And I think he did everything he could to try to prove that that was his daughter, to fight for his daughter. Went too far and lost her.
Okay.
And somehow Gavin was involved, and that guy was wearing that locket, maybe because that guy that died, what's his name again?
Shady Smith.
Shady Smith. I think Shady Smith might be, might have been the guy who kind of became her father or something. I don't know. I mean, why else would he be wearing a locket with his daughter's picture in it? I don't know. Weird. But then, you know, Phoenix starts playing poker, doesn't lose for 7 years. Why does this guy start playing a game with him, you know?
Yeah.
Was it like Phoenix was like, hey, let's play this game. If I win, I get her back. I don't know. Let's wager my daughter. I don't fucking know.
Alright.
Yeah.
So that's about like Gavin and Apollo.
Well, you know, Apollo isn't an asshole like Phoenix. You know, I always thought Phoenix was a big fucking raging asshole. Because he was. He was a dick. Apollo doesn't seem like a dick. I mean, we'll see how Apollo interacts with his friends.
Yeah.
Phoenix was a fucking dickhead. Always, you know, just bitching and moaning and talking shit to Gumshoe.
He was very sarcastic.
He was he was. He put the ass in sarcastic. He was a dick. Yeah, I guess it's intriguing that he can, you know, he's like a mentalist or whatever. It's intriguing. That's an element. Maybe punch Phoenix.
Yeah.
A little bit of a overreaction, I guess.
Overreaction to for Phoenix forcing Apollo to present forged evidence, putting his career in jeopardy.
I mean, you know, to punch the guy. He's not a fucking caveman. Maybe he is an asshole now that I think about it.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe he is a fucking dick.
All right.
You don't just punch a dude like that. Yeah, Gavin. Terrible hair. Awful hair. Oh my god.
Oh, it's very. I thought it's nice.
Awful.
Very
Worse
nice.
than Payne's, maybe.
Worse than Payne's hair.
Terrible.
That braid.
So I guess Phoenix was going against Gavin. Wouldn't be surprised if Gavin was somehow a protege of Edgeworth. Perhaps.
But Gavin's a defense attorney.
Yeah. Well, Edgeworth wanted to become a defense attorney, remember? He kind of realized that.
Yeah.
That's why he left and whatever.
I suppose.
Well, you know, he's still like Wright and Co. offices is still like functioning, even though he's not a lawyer, which makes me think that Maya might be still running that shit. We'll see.
All right.
Or Charlie, or maybe Charlie's running the whole thing.
Charlie's probably running the whole thing.
But I guess I like that this first case was less of a like, you know, let's relearn the function of the game, and actually had like set up a lot of stuff. Seems that it's all gonna come back eventually.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. All right, and we're gonna go to the next case, which is called Turnabout Corner in
The next episode.
Next episode is like watch this episode of Apollo Justice is done to make sure like scrap it up, 5 upload, which is
Ever see that?
Bye.